From the studio that brought us The Witch and Hereditary comes a new breed of horror and suspense. This is The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers. A24 is quickly becoming one of my favorite studios when it comes to horror. From the slow-burning psychological dread of The Witch, the drama and terror of family secrets in Hereditary, the terror of occult practices in Midsummer, and now the isolation and dive into insanity shown in The Lighthouse. A24 and Robert Eggers in particular have provided thought-provoking cinema that I can't get enough of. I'd even go so far as to say that The Lighthouse is my favorite film of 2019. So what makes this film such a powerhouse in my book? Let's take a look at the story. The film takes place in the 1890s. Two men have been assigned to keep an isolated lighthouse in the middle of the ocean running for 4 weeks. Thomas Wake, an eccentric and salty old sea dog, and Ephraim Winslow, a young former timberman looking for a change of profession. During these 4 weeks, these men will have no contact with the outside world and will have only each other and their work to keep them company. Tensions rise when Thomas abuses his position and forces Ephraim to do the majority of the hard labor whilst he tends to the lighthouse, all the while keeping it locked up so only he can have access to the light. Ephraim doesn't know why he isn't allowed to tend the lighthouse. All he knows is that Thomas is extremely protective of it. As the days go by, both men grow to resent and hate each other's company, the weather, and the isolation. Ephraim especially hates the seagulls that continue to pester and annoy him. The days pass with no sign of reprieve until neither men are sure how long they have been on the rock, or if anyone is coming to relieve them of their post. Soon, the insanity starts to set in. So what do I like about this movie? I think a better question might be, what don't I like about this movie? First, I love the performances by Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Carrying an entire film with a small cast is a challenge. Carrying a film with only 2 people is even more of a challenge, but by God, they succeed. Both men throw absolutely everything they have into these roles. They're so different but so similar at the same time. Seeing them go from relatively adjusted men slowly losing their minds and becoming violent feral animals is as mesmerizing to watch as it is horrifying. The cinematography and the color scheme are masterful. The idea of shooting the film in black and white with a smaller aspect ratio was brilliant. Not only does it help sell the audience on the time period this film is set in, but the absence of color and the dull light leaves very little for the eye to attach to, which makes the performances and the more out there moments pop like crazy. One of my favorite shots is at the beginning of the film as Ephraim watches the boat that brought him to the lighthouse sail away. Watching this boat slowly fade into the gray nothingness of the fog is, in my opinion, a brilliant foreshadowing of the fading sanity and humanity of the 2 men. The atmosphere is also dense and bleak. Some of the best scenes in this film are when both men are sitting down at dinner in silence. All you hear is the clinking of silverware, the rain and the wind outside, and the occasional horn of the lighthouse. But soon, the tension will be popped either by a quiet remark or an enraged outburst, keeping the audience on edge as to what will happen next. But my favorite thing about this movie is the same thing that I loved about The Witch, the feeling of dread. I've said it before, every great horror film needs to build a sense of dread and fear of what's going to happen in the end. The Lighthouse is constantly building the mystery of what's driving the insanity of these men, and why no help seems to be coming. The tension is palpable and keeps you on the edge of your seat. You're frightened, but you want to know more. And for some, the answers may be a bit too open-ended, but for me, the unknown factor makes the overall story all the more engaging. So, I've given this film a glowing review so far. Is there anything I didn't like? While I can't say there's anything in this film that I didn't like, I will say that this film isn't for everyone. The pacing of this film is very slow, and because of this, the film can drag at times. Some of the imagery in this film is also fairly graphic, both from a violent perspective and a sexual perspective. It's not overly violent or sexual, but there is a bit of both in this film that to some might border on poor taste, though I personally find that both are handled well and add to the theme of madness and isolation. Aside from these things though, I can't find this film as anything other than a tightly crafted, well-told, and thought-provoking film. I give The Lighthouse 5 stars out of 5.
It be a fine shining example of a most chilling seafaring tale, so grab yourself some of me lobster. I know you're fond of me, Lobster. I seen it.
And definitely give this one a watch. Thanks for watching, everyone. Leave a like and comment below what film you'd like to see me tackle next, and we'll see you next time right here on ADP Reviews.